Hello, and welcome to our next session, Activating Precision Health, Breaking Down Data Silos to Improve Patient Outcomes. I am Abby Engel, Senior Director of Events at Becker's Healthcare, and we are thrilled today to be joined by Dr. Don Brown. Before I introduce Dr. Brown, I'd like to remind our attendees of just a few things. First, you can submit any questions that you have for Dr. Brown using the Q&A box that you see on your screen. We will be sure to follow up with you directly after the event with answers to your questions. And second, a reminder that this session is being recorded and will be available for on-demand viewing at the conclusion of the program. Now it is my pleasure to kick things off by introducing today's speaker. Dr. Don Brown is the most successful serial software entrepreneur in the Midwest. His first company was acquired by EDS in 1986. He founded Software Artistry in 1988, which became the first software company in Indiana ever to go public and was later acquired by IBM for $200 million. Don then founded and served as CEO of Interactive Intelligence, which went public in 1999 and was acquired by Genesis Telecommunications Laboratories in 2016 for $1.4 billion. Don received a bachelor's in physics from Indiana University in 1978, a master's in computer science from IU in 1982, an MD from the Indiana University School of Medicine in 1985, and a master's in biotechnology from Johns Hopkins University in 2017. So without further ado, Dr. Brown, I will turn it over to you to begin.
Okay, thank you, Abby. Well, I'm going to talk just a few minutes about how we can use software and data to activate precision health, hopefully to really transform medicine. I think it's interesting to reflect that so little of our health is determined by our interaction with the healthcare system. Ultimately, our health is determined more by the genes we got from mom and dad, but even more so the behaviors that we adopt day to day, what we eat, how much we exercise, how much we sleep, all those sorts of things. Certainly our environment, the society we live in makes a difference. But I think the good thing I take from this slide is that a lot of our health is really within our control. Now, for me as a person with an MD and then going off into the computer industry for a number of years, it's really interesting to reflect how we can assemble big data sets now in a way that was unthinkable as I was going through medical school. Now we can develop a pretty comprehensive view of a person and their current health, their current physiology, right on up from the level of their germline genome, the genome they were born with, on up through the phenome, how that's expressed in terms of physiology and every level in between. And so it's really incredible because it's giving us this comprehensive view that has the promise of allowing us to spot diseases very early on in their course of development and even before we've begun to manifest clinical symptoms. And obviously, it's much easier to do something about problems before they become serious rather than wait. But in order to achieve this vision, we really have to solve this problem of being able to interact with patients more than just at an annual visit or a few other scattered visits throughout the year, because patients just don't spend that much time, thankfully, within a healthcare setting. And so what we focused on at LifeOmic is really trying to create a platform that's allows us to put together this comprehensive view that I mentioned, that incorporates data from electronic medical records, but also all this other information that we're generating all the time. And increasingly, many of us are wearing fitness trackers, rings, and watches, and all sorts of things that are effectively real-time telemetry devices. And so there's just a tremendous amount of data that's being generated. And so it means that we've got to have some means of tapping into that data stream on a constant basis. And the phone is the ideal way to do that. The phone becomes kind of the hub for data collection from other sorts of wireless devices that we might be wearing. The wearable watches and so on. And so having a kind of a cloud mobile strategy where you start off with a patient interface on their phone, but with all the information going up to a secure cloud environment, really opens up a world of possibilities for us. And so at LifeOmic, we've been working for almost 4 years now since I started the company. We're up to close to 100 people with Indianapolis is our headquarters, but development offices in Research Triangle Park, North Carolina, and where I am out in the Park City, Utah area. And we've been building these components, the cloud platform that can house all this information, and then the mobile applications that can serve as the patient interface. And the goal really is to help medical professionals answer questions that they really could only speculate about before because of the availability of the data as well as the compute up in the cloud that enables us to analyze this data. So at LifeOmic, we've created a cloud platform called the Precision Health Cloud that runs up in Amazon Web Services and can consolidate, can aggregate information from every conceivable source: old school electronic medical records, whole genome sequences, questions, surveys that we might pose directly to the patient, really any type of big data set. And it's important to make it open-ended because every year we seem to come up with some new data set that sheds light on human health. And so by being able to, by using some of these cloud capabilities that provide essentially infinite storage and unlimited compute, we can take advantage of machine learning, other big data techniques to really analyze data in ways that wouldn't have been possible just a few short years ago. And ultimately, what that leads to is better outcomes for patients. As I mentioned, the holy grail really is to prevent disease in the first place, as opposed to our current medical system that's very much geared toward remediating problems once they've already developed. But our bodies are very complex systems. Once they've kind of broken out of tolerance, out of normal operating range, it's really difficult to restore that initial balance. And so that's why it's just critical to be monitoring patients, not just during an annual visit, but with software. Ultimately, we can do that monitoring every day. Every minute, use artificial intelligence as well as these big data sets to pinpoint problems very early in their course and jump in and deal with them. Just some examples of the organizations we're working with. One is the Karuna Precision Wellness Center in Indianapolis. They focus on cancer survivors. And what we're coming to understand is that we can't just declare victory when we eradicate somebody's cancer. The truth is that cancer survivors have high rates of recurrence, high probability of developing other cancers, partly due to some of the therapies that were used to cure their cancer, sometimes because their genetic background put them at risk in the first place. And that risk hasn't gone away simply because we've been able to cure one cancer. But the Karuna Center is using our software to help monitor patients and really guide them toward wellness practices that are known to decrease their probability of developing cancer in the future. And we think ultimately this flows into not just cancer, but day-to-day disease management, whether it's type 2 diabetes, heart disease, really anything. It all comes down to using these data sets to understand the factors that are driving the disease, and then making very actionable recommendations to patients, because increasingly there's steps they can take to do something about these diseases. Another case study is at Community Hospital in Indianapolis. They have what they call their Pod 1 program, which is POD stands for Post-Operative Discharge Day 1. And what they're trying to do is get cardiac patients who have had some sort of implant out of the hospital as quickly as possible. Because hospital is paradoxically the worst, the last place you want to be when you're sick or when you're well. We really want to get people out of there as quickly as possible. And so we've worked with them to customize our mobile app to be able to integrate to get data directly from implanted devices, feedback through the cloud up to the physician team monitoring these patients, and really to get them out of the hospital and keep them out of the hospital while still giving real-time monitoring to this newly implanted device. Beyond disease prevention, once people have developed a disease, it's also important to monitor their response to different therapies. In particular, there are lots of clinical trials going on these days, and so we can match patients up to those clinical trials, which in many cases, especially in cancer, can be life-saving therapies. And so our prime collaboration has been with my alma mater, with Indiana University School of Medicine, and an effort that they kicked off a few years ago called the Precision Health Initiative, where they are really focusing on a number of cancers, and trying to understand the mutations driving those cancers, with the ultimate goal of coming up with effective cures. So it's been a lot of fun to work with the researchers there. This is now being put into clinical practice, so that when a new cancer patient walks in the door, the sort of aggregation of data that previously took at least 2 weeks is now taking on the order of 2 hours. We can help the researchers identify the specific mutations driving the cancer. And it's incredible how there's a whole database of already approved medications that can be brought to bear for many of these mutations, and certainly many cases where we can match patients with clinical trials. So this is a big challenge, but we think that the time is right. Technology has gotten to the point that we have the compute and storage power to aggregate this data. We now understand the biology well enough that we can generate data sets that really elucidate key aspects of the physiology of a disease. And so, even when people have developed chronic diseases, now we can monitor those, watch for changes, and at least try to keep people in a relatively normal functional state. So it's an exciting time, I think, to be in this field. Over the course of my lifetime, I've witnessed the convergence of information technology with the life sciences. In fact, I often say that the life sciences have become an information science, especially in the aftermath of the whole genome project that was launched back in the 90s to sequence the entire human genome. So I hope that all makes sense. Again, it's a very exciting time and a really rewarding field to be in. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that great presentation, Dr. Brown. That does conclude our session, Activating Precision Health, Breaking Down Data Silos to Improve Patient Outcomes. And Dr. Brown, I just want to thank you again for your time and your insights. And thank you to our attendees for tuning in to our session today. And please be sure that you click through to our next panel discussion, which will begin shortly. Thanks so much and enjoy the rest of the program.